Welcome to Season 3 of Transparency with Tiffany, the podcast. Today's episode is close to my heart, and not just because of what we're talking about, but because of who I get to talk to. My special guest for this episode is Dr. Eric Mansfield, and he is someone that I know and respect deeply. He is a physician, a veteran, a pastor, and he is someone who shows up with his full heart in every space that he steps into. And while our podcast has always been a space for women, especially Black women, today we're making space for a man who's walked beside us, listened to us, and who truly sees us. Eric is the first man to join the Transparency with Tiffany conversation, and I can't think of a better person to sit down with to discuss healing, rest, and the kind of love that shows up in action. Our very special episode, our wild card episode, starts now.
Hey, transparency with Tiffany. Hey, 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 hey. Transparency with Tiffany. Transparency with Tiffany. Transparency with Tiffany. Transparency with Tiffany. Hey, transparency with Tiffany. Hey, 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 hey.
Welcome to Transparency with Tiffany, the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. This is Season 3, and I'm excited. I appreciate you all being here with us this morning. I am recording backwards because we normally end with a wild card, but this season we're starting with our wild card. So before I introduce the wild card guest, let me start with a shout out. And my first shout out today is for this space that we are in. This is Renovations Studio. Let's give them a round of applause. And this is a hidden gem in High Point that most people don't know about. Yeah. And so it is Black owned, woman owned, and I'm doing everything I can so that people would know that they are here. And so please check them out. They have gorgeous art for sale, as well as they rent the studio out. So please, let's make sure we go to social media sites, and they are it's R-H-E-N, Ovations. So please check them out. So we are going to jump in. Today, again, this is my wild card, and for those of you, if you are new for following us, our platform, we use it to highlight women in our community who are doing amazing things, mainly those who serve. And I also try to find women over 50 because a lot of times at this stage, we're kind of losing our voices and feeling forgotten. So that is what we focus a lot of our guests on. But today we're starting with the wild card. And this one is very close to me. So we have never had a man on the couch. This is our first male. And he is very special to me, very special to my family. He is my mama's favorite child that she didn't have. He thinks he's the favorite.
I am.
He is the favorite. But he is... Okay. He is a physician. He is a veteran. He is a former North Carolina senator. He is a newly viral praying pastor on the socials. So y'all have to go follow him. He is Snot Doc, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But he is, more than anything, he really is my brother and my friend. And so today we introduce Dr. Eric Mansfield.
Thank you.
Welcome. How do you feel being the first?
I love you.
I love you too.
Yeah.
How do you feel knowing you're the first man on the couch?
I'm honored. I'm
Okay.
scared, but I'm honored.
Why are you
Yes.
scared? It's gonna be fun.
It's hard to follow great women.
Okay. I know that's right. Okay, so we're gonna jump in. So Eric is the first man to join the podcast, and of course, I I can't think of anybody else I would have wanted. So I appreciate you taking time. He drove up this morning to be with us. So before we talk about like how you serve and everything you do, I want us to start with you telling us who shaped your heart. We talk about this often. You're one of the most giving people that I know. So tell us who shaped your heart and what did you learn from watching the Black women lead in your own family?
Yeah, well, I have some great Black women in my life. My dad died at 10. And so after he died, my mom took over. And let me just say this, my mom was not my biological mom. I don't know who my biological mom is. I know who she is, but I've never met her.
I never know that.
I know, but I want to give credit to my mom. My mom died 2.5 years ago. And so I want to give her credit because she was a young 30-something-year-old woman who had just gotten married 3 or 4 years prior, and her husband died. And so she could have very easily been like, these are not my kids, go back to wherever you came from. But she took care of us, and she stopped her life to make sure that we would have a better life than she did. And so my mom is, she's one of the most giving people that I've ever met. If she had something, she was going to give it. Even if you were somebody she didn't really like, which she old school, so she'll tell you she ain't like you, but she's still gonna help you. And then my sister is the same way. She's very giving. My grandmother, who was a school teacher for over 40 years in Rayville, Louisiana, everyone knew my grandmother because she was giving stuff out the back door, and she was always like, "Hey, baby, take these collard greens over to Sister Johnson's house bring my plate back, that kind of thing." And so I've always seen that we were a community. And so they always taught me that no matter how great you get, how well you become, you're always as strong as the community that surrounds you. So I always try to give back.
Right. Have you ever wanted to be spiteful or petty or... I'm just curious.
Yeah, I love being petty, but I can't be.
Right.
I want to be. Okay. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, I definitely, because especially when you help somebody and then they don't say thank you, and then like 2 years later, they come back like butter but I need some help now. You kind of want to be like, seriously? But then God be like, I know you're not tripping because remember when I'm like, okay, yeah, here, right. So you can't be petty when God's been so good.
That's good.
Right. It's hard.
Okay, so you've made it clear that the work you do isn't about your ego or your title. It's about your love and your service. Even though I don't have to Google you, I just went back last night to like refresh myself. And so I looked at a post about you, and it had over 300 comments of people talking about like how amazing you are. And I know you don't see that, but you are amazing. But tell us, what does love in action look like for you?
Like that. Like doing stuff and not taking credit, right? We live in such a society now that if you do something, you want everybody to know about it. Man, sometimes, especially being a physician, there are a lot of things you'll do that nobody will ever know because you touch people in places at times when nobody should know. And I think our community originally existed that you took care of people because it was the right thing to do, not because you're gonna get likes. I think, unfortunately, we're pivoting to a community that if we don't get a like for it, we ain't gonna help you, right? And that's not right. And that's what love does. Love doesn't keep score. It doesn't mark. It doesn't go back. It doesn't reverse. It doesn't say, well, you didn't do this for me. To me, I believe too much has been given, much is required. And so what I've learned is there are two types of people. There are hoarders and there are givers, right? The people who live out of lack, so they hoard, and the people who live out of gift and love, and they give, right? And God blesses the person who gives because he goes, hey, you're gonna give it away, I'm gonna refill you. Right. But he always refills with interest. Right. That's what people don't see. He always gives you back more than what you give out. So I'm okay with giving it out on the left hand because I know God's gonna give it back on the right. So I'm always got, right? So, and you see the people who hoard, they don't ever have anything. Right. They're always trying to get a penny. And you sitting there with dollars on dollars, and you're like, bruh, there's a better way. And so to me, love supersedes everything, which the Bible says that the greatest of all these things is love. Right.
So when we talk about love, I'm gonna pivot for a second. When we talk about love, You came into our lives when Mama was going through a really hard time. And so how did you end up in Rockingham first? What made you come?
My pastor, John D. Fuller at the time, was like, hey, I need you to go down here and preach.
Okay.
And I was like, okay. So I went there and preached one time, and then they called him and said, send him back. And he said, I need you to go back. And I was like, okay. And then we fell in love. You know?
Okay. So I met Eric from, he was my mama's pastor.
Who I love. And I'm her favorite.
And if you know my mom, we're in a very small town, Rockingham, North Carolina. And my mom, for those of you who don't know our story, my stepfather passed away unexpectedly. At the time, he was 45 years old. We thought in good health, and he woke up one day and passed away. And it shook my mama's world. And she literally withdrew from everything. My mama really never went back to work. It was like really hard. And so me and my sister and I, we were extremely worried about her. And we were going home, I was like, every weekend, to make sure that she was okay. And here comes Eric and his family. And my mama fell in love with them. We were like, who is this Eric that you keep talking about? And she's like, oh, my pastor's amazing. And my pastor's amazing. But you really, when we think about it, you really nourished mama back to health. Like her mental state. My mama we grew up where my mama would send us to Sunday school, okay? And then she would come to church. She got so involved in anything he was doing, okay? Anything. She was like secretary at church, and I'm like, you? And that, if you know my mom, that is not her personality. But she knew that she could trust you, and you guys really became her family.
I always loved your mom. Your mom is one of the most amazing women I've ever met. She can cook. She can just throw down. But, this is love in action, right? Yeah. Because that community is a very poor community. And I think, unfortunately, people go to those communities to pull out what they can get out of them, as opposed to pouring in what they can. And so for what we were trying to do is really say, hey, you can live a better life. That where you are is not where you have to be. Right. And a lot of times, all you need to do is show them how to get there and get out of the way. God will do the rest. And so your mom, she was instrumental in that because she knew where all the people were who weren't getting services. Yeah. And unfortunately, in those areas, sometimes the government and the institutions don't do what they're supposed to. So it was up to us to do it.
So there are moments in our lives that interrupt our rhythm. And sometimes those interruptions reveal something we would not have seen. So I want to talk a little bit about your accident in 2018. Tell us, how did that experience shift you, and not just physically, but spiritually and emotional? How did it change you? And then just tell us a little bit about.
Yeah, so I was driving home from the gym and my heart stopped, and I crashed my car. Fortunately, a good Samaritan pulled me out of the car, and God ordained things. It's when you think about it, so miraculous. So the ambulance was actually out on a training call, and the young lady who was driving the ambulance being trained, I actually treated her mother in Fayetteville, but we were in Fuquay. So they were 1 mile away from the accident. So their response time was within minutes, right? So they get there and they shock me and my heart goes right back into rhythm. But they take me to Wake Med and they put me in a coma for 4 days. I come out of the coma and everyone's kind of confused because they're like, God, you're so healthy, what's going on? So they figure out that I threw a clot to one of my arteries in my heart. My heart stopped, and so I went to surgery, and a week later I was back home. And so one of the things that taught me that life is precious. It is quick, it is fleeting, and do what you need to do today. Don't wait for tomorrow. If you got china at your house, eat it every day. When my mom died, we got her china, and so I eat off her china every day.
Do you?
Yeah. Cool. What am I waiting on? Right? Oh, who am I waiting on? So, I don't care what it is. French fries, and I throw it on it, right? And so I would also say that if God has placed something in your heart and keeps whispering to you every single day, I need you to do this, I need you to do this, what are you waiting on? And what he's really saying is not for you individually, He's saying that he has something that you need to do so that somebody else gets it. Because if you notice, there is no tree that eats itself. No apple tree eats apples, no plum trees eat plums, no orange tree eats orange, and no watermelon vine eats watermelons. The fruit is always for who? Someone else. And so if he's pushing you, and don't let time pull you away, and make sure you give your fruit now so that those who are around you can eat from that fruit.
Tell him to do a little mini sermon. So on our platform here, one of the things that we focus on is we don't hide here, we heal here. And you have a sermon recently that you preached entitled, Healing Doesn't Happen in Hiding. And that line, it stopped for us because it goes in line with us talking about we don't hide here, we heal here. And a lot of times as women, we put on our mask, we want to hide, we want people to think, everything is good, and it's not. Because it means that we smile through our pain and we just keep going.
Right,
we just keep going.
Yeah.
And you and I talk about this a lot. You get on me a lot because I say, I'm good. Yeah. And you be like, you're not, and it's okay for you not to be good. But tell us, what would it look like for more Black women to feel safe enough to stop hiding in their pain?
So a couple of things. One, confession is good for the soul, but it's bad for the reputation. And so when I went through a divorce, I think one of the things that the enemy tries to do is isolate you. Because if he can isolate you, he can talk to you. If he can talk to you, he can bring you down. And you got no alternative voice speaking back. Because the voices in your head are telling you that you're horrible, that you're not good, that you failed, you should have known better, you should have done better. You're a Christian. How did you end up here? And there's no voice speaking to you saying, come on, girl, get yourself up. We're going here. You need to be here. Show up. Wipe your eyes. We're going to make it together. And so the greatest way to and also another strategy to keep people from talking about you is talk about yourself. Because at some point, everybody else is going to be like, the girl says she did that. She already asked for forgiveness. Why are we even talking about this, right? And so you don't have to defend yourself because your girls will be like, you need to shut up. Oh, can I say that?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Because they'll be like, hey, you need to shut up because she's already said she was sorry. Like, why are we still talking about this? And so you take so much power away from people when you say, yeah, I did that and I was wrong and I'm not proud of that. And I'm a much better person than I was. Now, if you're going to hang back there where I was, then I'm going to leave you back there because I'm going somewhere else. And since you're back there, you probably don't need to be with me anyway. Right? So that's why I believe. And safe spaces for people to tell their truth, tell their hurt, tell their faults, makes it safer for everybody else to do the same. One of the greatest things you can do, and that's why I am open about my divorce and open about the pain and open about the isolation, is because so many other brothers would then walk up and be like, bruh, that happened to you? You got all your stuff together? I said, dude, man, don't get caught up in the professional stuff. Right. The personal stuff, man, is what gets you. As we say, don't let the smooth taste fool you. A lot of stuff has gone on to get me where I am. And not all of it has ever been good. And so when you walk around faking it, and walking around saying, I'm good and I'm all right. Well, that whole thing, I'm good, I'm okay, does two things, right? For the person who says it, it gives them protection. For the person who don't like you and ain't really that concerned about you, they can walk away and be like, I asked if she was okay. She said she was fine. What else am I supposed to do? But for your real friends, they're like, tell me what's wrong with you. And you can delineate who loves you and who just throwing something out to just see if you're okay, but don't really care about you. And so I would admonish everybody, if you got somebody going through that and they say okay, all they trying to do is get you off the phone. You be like, we ain't doing that today. You might as well go ahead and talk because I'm gonna stay here, or I'm gonna call you back, one of the two, right? So, like I do you.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Tracy was just saying, like you, Tiffany, and I am notorious because life has caught me off guard. And so I'm notorious, like, I'm good. And you're not. And there are some times that you will be like, okay, call me when you're ready. But those times when you know that I'm really not good, you're like, we're not getting off the phone. We're getting ready to sit here. We're going to talk about it. And some of the things that you say, they're hard to hear, but they've helped me.
Yes.
They have. And I'm grateful for you being one of my hard but safe spaces.
Well, everybody needs that person. Well, I'll tell you, and again, confession is good for the soul.
Okay.
Man for the reputation. So when I was going through my stuff, all these folk who were my friends, gone. Cell phone, ain't nobody called me, right? One person, every single day. She called. She was a local pastor. What's going on with you? What are you doing today? How are you doing? What's happening at nighttime? The next day, sometimes I look at the phone and be like, right? And if I ain't answer, she called again, be like, okay, I'm okay. So all of us going through that, man, you need one person. And I challenge each one of you to be that person. Even if they cuss you out, you be like, okay, we'll take this up tomorrow. but we all need just one anchor, just one voice. Can I tell one more story?
Yes.
So I got into a super dark space. I mean, super dark space. Like I really thought about killing myself. And so, I'm a nerd, so I don't want to hurt myself because I ain't trying to be in pain. And so I was sitting in my car, inside a garage, listening to a book on tape. And again, isolated. And the enemy kept saying, "You just can sit in the car. It'll be over." And theoretically, it was right. And my friend, a good friend of mine, her name's Beverly, if she sees this, she called me, and she calls me Buzzy. But I'm not gonna tell you why. But she says, "Buzzy, what you doing?" And I'm saying, "I'm sitting in the car." She said, "Why you doing that?" And I said, "I don't know." She said, "Well, God told me to tell you to get out." And I was like, "What?" And she said, "Yeah, I was sitting here, and God said, call Eric and tell Eric to get out the car." And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "I don't know what that means, but have a good day." And I was like, and I got out the car and I was like, "All right, we're good." All I needed to know was God was like, "I got you. I'm with you. Don't abort your future for a temporary problem." I love you.
I love you too. Okay, we're gonna ask, I have one more question and then we'll take some questions from the audience. So as a surgeon, you serve, you use your hands. And then as a minister, you use your voice. And then your presence, you are a mentor to many. So tell me, which of these expressions of service do you feel is the most sacred to you?
There's only one thing, serving God. Because serving God is about eternity, right? If I mess up in the operating room and that person dies, which hopefully never happens, it's a finite problem, right? If I mentor somebody and they don't do what I want them to do, it's a finite problem. But if I miscarriage God, that's an eternal problem. That person misses heaven because I was stupid, and they wind up in hell. That's eternity. Because we as we believe, you're gonna spend eternity somewhere, right? Heaven or hell. And so to me, speaking life into people and showing them that, hey, there is a better way. It ain't me, it is Christ himself. That brings people into eternity. And what God can do with people is so infinitely greater than what we can do with people. We just got to make the introductions. Right? And so to me, there's nothing greater, there's no higher calling than us getting people to Christ.
Yeah, that's good. I want to talk about one more thing and then we're going to take some questions. How did you start your prayers?
my daughter, because I didn't want to do it. God told me to do it, but I was like, I ain't doing it, right? And so then my daughter said, "Dad, you really, you get on my nerves because you talk so much. So why don't you, start doing stuff on a thing?" And I was like, and I was at the end of my divorce, and I was like, I don't want to be public. I don't want nobody to know. I just want to, be quiet. And so she said, "Yes." I said, "Okay." So I wrote one, and I put it up. My daughter was like, "What is that? What is that?" I was like, "Okay." And so I said, "God, look, I'll do it. But if it fails, I ain't doing another one." So I did one. I did the one about the lady who had cancer 7 times, and I went and she said, "Can't we pray?" And she said, "Lord, do it one more time," right? And so I did it. My daughter called me. I was in clinic because I didn't know how it worked. So I was in clinic, and she said, "Have you looked at your TikTok?" And I was like, "No." She said, "Go look at it." And I said, I looked at it. It had 125,000. And so I called her back. I said, "Is that good?" And she said, "What? Who are you?" And she, So then at the end of I got home and it was like 200,000 people. And so I called my daughter and she was like, I guess you need to, and I was like, I looked at God and I was like, yeah, okay. So I started doing it and everything kind of went fast. And then I got scared. And because I was getting all these comments like, ooh, I don't know what to do. So I quit because I got scared. I totally quit, didn't do anything from February to June. And I was on an airplane from Raleigh to Atlanta where my daughter was. And the flight attendant kept saying, I know you. And I was like, no, you don't. She said, I know you. I was like, no, you don't. And so then she called her flight attendant, but like, you know how we do. And I was like, and so when we got off, we landed in Atlanta, I crossed the threshold to get off. She said, you're the doctor from TikTok. And I said, yeah. She said, what happened to you? She said, they were so powerful. She said, you never know who you can touch. And so I was walking down through the airport and the Holy Spirit was like, and I was like, and so I started back like July 8th. And then it just kind of just grew. And I'm thankful. It's all Holy Spirit. I don't have anything to do. All I do is pray. And the Holy Spirit does everything else.
I'm glad you work. Yeah. And if y'all haven't seen it, you have to watch it. It is amazing. I go every morning, straight there. Sometimes he's late. I'm like, where he at? Because he is a morning person, so I'm used to it. You know, he goes to the office early. I'm used to it being there. And then some mornings it's not.
Your sister.
I know, but I'm like, where he at? I will text him. So I'm glad you were obedient. It is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. Yes. Give him a round of applause and we'll take some questions right fast.
Can I say Dr. Eric? Eric? Okay. What's a moment when you felt like this is exactly what you wanted to do?
In surgery, not until I would say I took surgery for granted. I didn't realize what I was doing and the lives that, because surgery is such a vulnerable space, but for us who are surgeons, sometimes we just see it as a job that we do. And here recently, because I think I'm coming to the end of my career, I start seeing like the little children that parents give me and the amount of trust. And particularly now, because I know there are some folk who are straight up Republicans and got MAGA hats on, but they give me their children knowing that we may not politically agree, but they trust me. And so in medicine, here recently, I feel the weight of someone trusting their loved one for me to operate on, which is, because so many things can go wrong, but they trust me with their child or their loved one or their husband or their wife. And so that's been more recently, and I think it's because God is actually showing me all the things that he's doing while we're operating. In ministry, I think after the divorce, I think that once you go down into the valley of dry bones, and God asks you the question, can these bones live again? And you say, if you don't do it, and then you see 6 months later, some stuff kind of moving. And then a year later, you're like, oh my goodness. And now you're walking and running and striving and now you're speaking and the Holy Spirit is moving and you're watching people that you spoke over. And so now you go, oh man, so I'm actually doing what God has called me to do. Not mean there won't be any resistance, because that's just how it works. If you got a great calling, there's great resistance. It's just how it works. And just being a good friend, I think now I've learned that is probably the most powerful thing. Outside the covenant of marriage, I think the most powerful thing after that is being a good friend.
Hi, Eric. Good morning.
How are you?
Great. What is something that you have seen in Black women that inspires you?
Resilience. By any stretch of the imagination, it's just straight resilience. You look at particularly just Black women in my family. My mom. I mean, imagine that you marry this guy, He's a pilot in the Army. He's at the Pentagon. Probably gonna be a general. You got all these dreams, aspirations. 3 years later, he's dead. And now you got 2 kids who not yours. And you decide, I'm gonna give up everything for these 2 kids. Now understand, we got government supplement, but you can't raise a family on what the government gives you from the Army, right? And so I saw my mom hustling and doing stuff. But when you're a kid, back then, parents ain't tell you the truth, right? They hid all that stuff, right? But when you got in college or got later on, you start going, that's what she was doing? For me to get to Howard, she did that? Yeah, it was a resilient woman. Her mom, we don't say this public, but her mom ran numbers. Had like a speakeasy out the back of the house. Like, I never knew why we had 50 cases of RC Cola and Coca-Cola. I was like, man, Auntie just got it like that, But later on, we find out she got a whole nightclub out the back of her house, right? But what did she do? She did that for the time that she was in. Not only she used it to buy a bunch of houses, to do a bunch of property, and on top of that, if you needed something, you got it. She would hook you up. And so it's just the resilience of women to see that, hey, life is not going to be good to you. If it is, fantastic. But if it's not, y'all don't go, oh, woe is me. Y'all go, are you going to get out the way so I can do what I need to do? Right? So.
Hi, Eric. My name is Tracy, and my question is, what keeps your heart soft in the middle of all that works for you?
God first. And my children. I have my daughter and my son are just so ridiculous. Like, they're so much fun. They're both brilliant. They're exceptionally brilliant, both of them. But when I'm with them, they make me do stuff that I wouldn't normally do because they're my kids and they're like, oh, Dad, shut up. Let's do this, right? And so I love that about them because they're still adventurous and the world is still bright to them. They're different than I am because I see the world as just a little darker, and they see it as, I'm still young and it's still light. And then what really does it is humanity itself. When you see suffering, and so my goal is to ease suffering wherever I see it, whether I'm in Kenya or Morocco or Panama, wherever I go, when you see human suffering that's created by humans, your heart is tender because humans can correct it. So, yeah. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For being our first
I'm honored.
wild card,
I'm so
our first
honored
guest
to
of
be
the season.
a wild card.
Yes.
I've never been a wild card.
Thank you for letting everybody see the side of you that I get to see. Whenever you watch his prayers, you'll see that he keeps it light and he's praying, but you show your humor side. But like you said, like a lot of time people see us and they think everything is perfect. And so I'm grateful, here in our space, that's where we focus on transparency. You did an amazing job for letting us in, and I thank you
for having me. It was such a great time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the end of our wild card episode, so I want to say thank you to our studio audience. Thank y'all. Give yourselves a round of applause. And for those of you who are watching, I ask that you go and find us. We are on all social media sites and on YouTube at Transparency with Tiffany, and we'll see you next time.
All right.